Good morning and welcome to our hybrid Zoom worship service. I'm Rodney Fry and I'll be your celebrant this morning. Just 17 days from the winter solstice and the longest night of the year. Reverend Elizabeth is a little bit under the weather today, so she'll be joining us by taped video. I'd like to extend a special welcome to all those who are worshiping with us for the very first time. We are very glad that you're with us here. If you're here in person, you should have received a welcome packet as you arrived. It's got a card in it. You could fill it out and drop it off in the offering basket. We'll be able to get in touch with you to support you in finding your way into our community. In the meantime, please join us in the fellowship hall downstairs following the service for coffee. Our welcoming committee, members with yellow name tags, are available to answer any of your questions and give you additional information. If you're joining us online, there's a link on our website to an electronic version of the same card. And we host a virtual coffee hour following the service if you're interested. So there's no need to turn off the Zoom right after the service. Now, let us say our words of welcome together. Welcome to you, old friends and new, young and old. You're an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or your 1000th Sunday in our midst, we are stronger because you are with us. We are one people with many beliefs, identities, origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved, body, mind, heart, and spirit. Just as you are, you're welcome here. And now we'll take a moment to say hello across the technical divide. First, we'll be going to those folks that are joining us via Zoom. If you're at home, please turn on your camera. Now, people at home, let's see that big wave. Now, people here attending the service in this building, it's your turn. Big wave. Wonderful. We do have a couple of announcements. I think the first one might be on a video.
Hi everyone, this is Judy Brown. I'm the board president this year, and this beautiful winter weather is reminding me that it's time for our annual December congregational meeting. I hope it's reminding you too. The meeting is right after church today. We have two things we need to do. One is elect new board members, and the other is pass the 2023 budget. And it's important that we meet quorum. So please stay if you are at all able, and you can attend either by Zoom or if you're there in person. Thanks. See you at the meeting.
And I think we have one more announcement. Today, the Purple Paisley Quilters will be presenting their annual holiday bazaar, and there's 2 chances to shop, today and next Sunday. They'll be open for business in the fellowship hall downstairs after our congregational meeting, and next Sunday after the service. So be thinking about all those goodies that you'll want to think about, because all your favorites will be available, including, but not limited to, homemade dish towels, hot dill pickled beans, elegant knitted hats, stylish cozy shawls, mittens, gloves, socks, gourmet tomato salsa, and a wide variety of jams and jellies. Something perfect for everyone on your list, including your cat. I got this from Elizabeth, and she bolded the cat part. This year, for the first time, the beautiful handmade baby quilts will be available. All items are handcrafted by members of the PPQ, and all proceeds are donated to good charities, good causes. Here end the announcements. We preface our service by acknowledging that the land on which our homes, our church, all these, where we live, were not uninhabited when European settlers arrived here with their ideas of conquest and ownership. For those of us who live in the Moscow, Pullman, or nearby communities, we are on the ancestral homelands of the Ninipu, called the Nez Perce by the French-speaking traders, the Palouse, and the Sichumsh, called Coeur d'Alene by the French-speaking traders. If you're joining us from another place, I encourage you to discover who inhabited or moved through the place where you now live in the times before colonization and genocide, and where they are now. We pause and remember that we live on sacred ground, ground stolen, ground that cries out for justice and responsibility in a stewardship that we can provide. May our remembering help us find the courage to do our part to restore wholeness to the earth and to all her peoples. And I'll ask if John could come forward. Thank you. We also pause for just a moment to light a candle in prayer for peace. We hold in our hearts all those currently threatened by greed and imperialism, from the people of Ukraine to those in Burma and Somalia. May we recommit ourselves to nurturing peace, peace in the world, and peace within. We are hoping that folks joining us via Zoom have a chalice or a candle to light and something to light it with. And now we light our chalice together. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek and seek to share.
We also have a special Advent wreath, and we'll light 2 of the Advent candles this morning. And each week we're going to add a new stanza from a poem called Light Now, Candle Lighting Words for Advent by the Reverend Teresa Inez Soto. So go ahead, John, you can light the first 2. Light now the Advent candle 1. The work of waiting has begun. A single flame now shining bright beams hope through the long stretch of night. Light now the Advent candle 2, since love is bringing something new, a baby to a family and miracles for you and me.
Thank you, Ginger and John.
Pre-recording today from Vermont. I've had a really lovely visit with my siblings and nibblings for the last 10 days, but unfortunately, toddlers, while adorable, are also walking, talking, snuggly little petri dishes. So don't worry, I don't have COVID, but trust me, you do not want to catch this cold, and I really don't want to bring it back to the Palouse with me. I would appreciate it, though, if you'd let me know how you feel about this virtual sermon. Well, it's definitely the right thing to do this week. If it works well, it opens up so many possibilities for bringing in fabulous guest speakers from across the country and really around the world. So let us know what you think, me or somebody from the worship committee. This morning's service will celebrate darkness. All too often, we use darkness and light as metaphors for evil and good. But the truth is that we desperately need the dark. The dark gives us time to rest, to heal, and occasionally a safe space where we can be transformed in ways that are subtle and mysterious. So let's reconsider the metaphor and explore together the gifts that darkness holds for us in this season of long, dark nights. Our opening words are by my colleague and friend, the Reverend Kristen Grassel-Schmidt. Once again, the final month of the year begins. Once again, the days grow shorter and the nights grow longer. The light lessens and the dark increases, luring trees to slow their sap and animals to sleep in warm dens. This season of growing darkness beckons to us too. This time for yard work is past now. Autumn's harvests have been gathered in. Spring's bulbs have already been planted. It's time to stop, to pause, to settle in. The season of extra blankets and warm beverages, the time for all things cozy has begun. Spirit of life coax our minds and spirits away from the glare of screens, the holiday pressure, the schedules overflowing, and toward all that brings rest, comfort, healing. Create within us and in our lives the space to accept the gifts that darkness has to offer. Come, let us worship together.
I invite you now to rise in body and spirit, and let us sing hymn number 55, Dark of Winter, in the gray hymnal. The words will also be on our monitor. Please be seated. I'd now like to invite Ginger forward. Now let's take a moment to engage in the practice of generosity together.
Good music first, then offering.
Now, let's have a moment. And that was absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. To engage in the practice of generosity together. For those who are able to make a financial contribution, logistics will be on the screen. We invite you to either copy down the information you need or simply go to the website to make a donation. The web address is in the chat. Those of you who are new or visiting from another part of the country may not be aware that we typically give away all the cash from the Sunday offering to local charities whose mission align with our values. A program called Month of Sundays. This month, the recipient is Alternatives to Violence on the Palouse. Their mission is to provide support and safety for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, and for non-offending family members and friends. If you are donating online, you can choose Month of Sundays from the drop-down menu, or if you're mailing in or dropping off a check, simply indicate in the memo line where you intend the money to go, Month of Sundays or the general fund. In the spirit of love and continuing work of this church, we would now like to take some time to practice generosity together. Thank you, Molly. Now is the time for a meditation. So I invite you to get comfortable, listen as the words wash over you and into you, and reflect. Sweet Darkness by David White. When your eyes are tired and the world is tired also, when your vision has gone, no part of the world can find you. Time to go into the dark, where the night has eyes, to recognize its own. There you can be sure you are not beyond love. The dark will be your womb tonight. Tonight will give you a horizon farther than you can see. You must learn one thing: the world was made to be free in. Give up all the other worlds except the one to which you belong. Sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn. Anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you. And now for our first, hello. And now for our first reading, Dark and Light and Dark by Jackie Smith. Blackmail, blacklist, black mark, Black Monday, black mood, black-hearted, black plague, black mass, black market. Good guys wear white, bad guys wear black. We fear black cats and a dark continent, but it's okay to tell a white lie. Lily white hands that are coveted. It's great to be pure as a driven snow. Angels and brides wear white. Devil's food cake is chocolate. Angel's food cake is white. We shape language and we are shaped by it. In our culture, white is esteemed. It's heavenly, sunlight, clean, pure, immaculate, innocent, and beautiful. At the same time, black is evil, wicked, gloomy, depressing, angry, sullen. Ascribing negative and positive values to black and white enhances the institutionalization of this culture's racism. Let us acknowledge that negative connotations of whiteness, white things, can be soft, vulnerable, pallid, ashen, while it can be blending, bleaching, innervating. Conversely, we must acknowledge that darkness has a redemptive character, that in darkness there is power and beauty. The dark nurtured and protected us before we were born. Welcome darkness. Don't be afraid of it or deny it. Darkness brings relief from the blinding sun, scorching heat, from exhausting labor, from night signals permission to rest, to be with our loved ones, conceive new life, to search our hearts, to remember our dreams. The dark of winter is a time of hibernation. Seeds grow in the dark, fertile earth. The words black and dark don't need to be destroyed or ignored, only balanced and reclaimed in their wholeness. The words white and light don't need to be destroyed or ignored, only balanced and reclaimed in their wholeness. Imagine a world that had only light or dark. We need both, dark and light, light and dark.
child, I was afraid of the dark. I assume I'm not the only one, and there's good reason for that. The tendency to see unfamiliar shapes as potential threats helped keep our ancestors alive. It's a trait that was positively selected for over 40 million years. In other words, we evolved to see monsters in shadows and piles of laundry. However, we're not children anymore. We know that the dark is not inherently evil or more dangerous. With the exception of those of us who suffer from seasonal affective disorder, quite the contrary. The shift in the length of the day and the rhythm of dark and light helps reinforce our circadian rhythms. Because we also evolved for the world as it is, and there are benefits that our bodies derive from the dark when we choose to surrender to it. At this moment, when we're dealing with the trauma, uncertainty, and anxiety caused by the tragic homicide last month, it is completely understandable that we might be feeling a little shaken and scared. I know I started locking my doors at bedtime for the first time in a long time. However, if we can shift our perspective and reclaim the darkness again as a safe haven, as a gentle place to rest and recharge, I think we'll be better served. My colleague, the Reverend Dr. Kristen Harper, writes, darkness has almost always been considered negative. In Old English, the word deor meant without light, obscure, gloomy, or sad, cheerless, sinister, wicked. Phrases like dark mood and dark night of the soul only reinforce our negative feelings. We're taught to fear the dark, that all the monsters and demons come out in the dark. But those who hurt others under the guise of battling monsters do so as much in the daylight as in the night. The light does not hide war, famine, abuse, greed, torture, or any other kind of violence. Light does not hide our sadness or depression, our loneliness, or our despair. Darkness may even be a salve to the intensity of the light. I love that last line. Darkness may be a salve to the intensity of the light. We are lucky enough to live in a time where a powerful and growing movement is shining light on the uglier parts of our history. Seems like every week I'm learning something new about how racism and white supremacy have impacted our world and continue to cause harm to Black folks, Indigenous people, and other people of color. This week, one of the things I learned from a Facebook post, actually, is that the beautiful red flowers we buy at this time of year are properly known as Quetzalcoatl. They're a sacred flower to the indigenous people of what's now called Mexico. They were used in ceremonies to celebrate the birth of Quetzalcoatl during the winter solstice, and they were also used for medicinal and healing purposes to cure sicknesses, to aid the flow of breast milk. And they were also used for dyeing fabrics. Meanwhile, Joel Poinsett was a slave owner who promoted white supremacy in his travels and in his political career. He was responsible for the displacement of many indigenous peoples. And those indigenous peoples, their descendants, have asked us to use the proper name for the flower rather than the name of the colonizer who abused and harmed their culture. And I'm grateful to do it. I'm grateful to know. I'm happy to learn the correct name for these flowers, though, truth be told, I don't usually buy any for my house because I have dogs. But you know, it's a gift that we get to learn these things in this time. But it's also somewhat intense. The other thing I learned, and this was from a New York Times article about the work of the Reparations Task Force in California, is that the Federal Reserve Board survey of consumer finances looked at the median wealth of Black households in the US as opposed to white households. Black households, the median wealth is $24,100, and the median wealth for white households, $188,200. So $24,000, $188,000. Isn't that stunning and disgusting and awful? The article went on to share specific stories of homes that were confiscated through eminent domain for pennies on the dollar, as well as other gross injustices. It was a hard article to read, but by the time they moved on to describe the strategies for offering reparations, educational credits, or even cash payments to people of color, I was 110% on board. I'm ready to have my tax dollars used to right some of these wrongs. I've also read several articles this past week detailing the rise of anti-Semitism, triggered by the decision of former President Trump to have dinner with Kanye West and Nick Fuentes. It's hard to say whether there's an actual upsurge in hate in response to the growing awareness of racism and white supremacy, or whether it's always been there just under the surface, and now we brought light to it and we get to see it. Regardless, these incidents also create strong feelings, intense feelings. Nor can we ignore the rise in anti-gay and anti-trans hate crimes, sitting as we are so close on the heels of the shooting at Club Q in Colorado Springs. The things we're learning are things that deserve to be brought to light. Many of them facts that people of color and others who hold historically marginalized identity have always known. I'm committed to the journey to decolonize my mind and deconstruct my internal racism. But it does feel intense sometimes. It breaks my heart. It makes me angry. Tests the limits of my understanding. And it's been like this for a while. Maybe it's been like this always? Regardless, our awareness of the world's suffering is growing, and this growth is both necessary and sometimes painfully intense. Essentially, we're living in a time when to be a compassionate, informed person requires that we metabolize historical and ongoing trauma, day in, day out. Turns out that one of the most effective ways to do that is, paradoxically, to go to sleep. In particular, we need to sleep deeply enough that we're able to dream. We don't know exactly what's happening when we're sleeping and dreaming. The complexity of the human brain is simply awe-inspiring. But we do know that without sleep, we go mad. And we also know that sleep helps us integrate and process both information and trauma. According to psychologist and neuroscientist Matthew Walker, time spent in dream sleep is what heals. REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, dreaming, appears to take the painful sting out of difficult, even traumatic emotional episodes experienced during the day, offering emotional resolution when you awake the next morning. REM sleep is the only time when our brain is completely devoid of the anxiety-triggering molecule noradrenaline. At the same time, key emotional and memory-related structures of the brain are reactivated during REM sleep as we dream. This means that emotional memory reactivation is occurring in a brain free of a key stress chemical, which allows us to reprocess upsetting memories in a safer, calmer environment. Let me read that again. Emotional memory reactivation is occurring in a brain free of a key stress chemical, which allows us to reprocess upsetting memories in a safer, calmer environment. Part of realizing the dream of inclusive and just beloved community is actually dreaming. This is how we integrate difficult truths and come back to a sense of centeredness and well-being. In other words, if we want to be woke, we have to sleep first. This is a poem for Solstice by Rainer Maria Rilke. You darkness that I come from, I love you more than all the fires that fence in the world. For the fire makes a circle of light for everyone, and then no one outside learns of you. But the darkness pulls in everything, shapes and fire, animals and myself. How easily it gathers them, power and people. And it is possible a great energy is moving near me. I have faith in nights. I'm going to read that again. You, darkness that I come from, I love you more than all the fires that fence in the world, for the fire makes a circle of light for everyone, and then no one outside learns of you. But the darkness pulls in everything, shapes and fire, animals and myself. How easily it gathers them, power and people. And it is possible. A great energy is moving near me. I have faith in nights. Well, I don't believe that a metaphor that equates darkness with evil is helpful. I do believe that embracing darkness as a metaphor for the things we don't yet know, for uncertainty and mystery, is both appropriate excuse me, is both appropriate and helpful. It's not just the night that offers us darkness. Think of a seed buried in the earth. Think of the womb. Think of our tender hearts beating inside our bodies. Think of a caterpillar wrapped tight in its cocoon. The darkness of the unknown can feel overwhelming, but it also offers almost limitless possibilities. Who knows what might take shape if we're willing to release our grasp on what is known and familiar. In these times we are living in, when so much is falling apart, we have strategic decisions to make. How much of our time oh. All right, one of the gifts of pre-recording is I get to hit the pause button when I need to blow my nose and get another drink of water. Let me start that over again. In these times we're living in, when so much is falling apart, we have strategic decisions to make. How much of our time and life energy do we invest in trying to shore up the structures that are crumbling? And when does it serve us and the world to just let go, to choose instead to put our efforts into the work of imagining and creating new structures, new ways of being? Tara Brach gave a beautiful talk called Darkness of the Womb, 4 Key Steps in Transforming Suffering. You can find the podcast and the transcript online. I do recommend it to you. In it, she offers us guidance on how to harness the power of personal and social evolution by engaging in 4 practices. First, we have to train ourselves not to believe the thoughts that create hatred and separation. We need to let go of our own self-limiting beliefs and stop the practice of othering. In Tara's words, we have such a deep conditioning to live in this cocoon of very habitual thoughts. The negativity bias that really comes from our more primitive fear ends up creating fear thoughts and fear beliefs that usually take the shape of something is wrong with me or something is wrong with you. That judgment then leads to distance and to hatred. It keeps our personal lives such that we have a hard time feeling real intimacy, and societally, it keeps us at war. So the first practice is to notice and then stop letting those beliefs into our minds and our hearts. The second practice, and you've heard this before, is to feel our feelings, even or especially the feelings that we experience as unpleasant. This is Tara again. Our emotions are intelligent, and every one of them, if you listen, has a message for us. We need them. Our anger tells us there's an obstacle to something that really matters to us. Our fear tells us that there's something really threatening. Our grief tells us that there's a loss that we need to be able to touch into. Our feelings inform us of our unmet needs. She continues, we need our emotions. They move us. By learning to stay resonant with our emotions, to feel them, we discover the presence, the awareness in the space that's large enough to hold them and still have some balance and freedom. In other words, if we don't feel our feelings, they leak out all over the place, and we get stuck in ways that just are not useful. The third practice Tara proposes is to train ourselves to turn toward love. She quotes Van Jones, who says, "Real love is the strongest stuff in the universe. The love army and this movement is built on that mama bear love. That mama bear loves those cubs, and that mama bear's not going to let you mess with those cubs. This movement is not going to let you mess with Muslims. This movement is not going to let you mess with dreamers. We're not going to let you mess with women. We're not going to let you mess with the earth. We're not going to let you mess with Black Lives Matter. This movement is based on that kind of love." And I would add, this faith is built on that kind of love. We can cultivate a fierce love for ourselves. We can cultivate a fierce love for the people in our lives. We can cultivate a fierce love for life. And that fierce love becomes the motivation for the fourth practice that Tara lifts up, which is acting from the heart. See, we can't do all of the things that need to be done. We can't solve the world's problems unilaterally, but we can and must do the things that our heart leads us to do. As Mother Teresa put it, we can do no great things, only small things with great love. In Tara's words, there are many ways to act. A lot of people feel resistance. They think this means they're supposed to go to a march or write a letter or engage in whatever image they have in their mind about what social activism is. That is not what we are talking about. We are talking about caring, and then from that caring, engaging in some way that helps to bring healing. It deconditions the tendencies to act in ways that are more regressive, like being obsessed with making ourselves more comfortable or with proving ourselves or getting approval. It moves us from self-centeredness to service, and that's where the freedom and the healing come. In practice, this looks like moment to moment asking ourselves, what is the most loving thing I can do right here, right now? What is the most loving thing that I can do? And sometimes the answer is to take a nap or make a cup of tea. Sometimes it is going to a march or writing a letter or a check. Sometimes it's reaching out to the person you've been meaning to check in on. Sometimes it's making a pot of soup and bringing it to your neighbor. The point is, our heart is our best guide. We can trust ourselves to recognize what piece of the work of love is ours to do. We can also trust that if we do it, we will have had a role in building the world we're dreaming of. It's not that there aren't real dangers in the world. Life is messy and involves risk. But preemptively making ourselves small, while it might grant us the illusion of safety, ultimately does tremendous damage. So let us choose then to experience these long, dark winter nights as a gift. Let us pull the darkness over and around us like our favorite comfy blankets and snuggle in for the duration. Let us feel the potential, the possibility that wait for us in the dark. Let us bravely venture into the unknown and trust love to show us the way. And just as our childhood selves, perhaps took comfort in having our family members or stuffed animals all around us, we can take comfort in knowing that we are, all of us, tucked into this community, surrounded by open-minded, brave, and loving folks who will always have our backs if we need them to, and who will cheer us on along the way. I love you all. So be it, and so may it be.
Now please rise in body and spirit, and let's sing together hymn number 47, Now on Land and Sea Descending, in your gray hymnal. Words are also on the monitors. Please be seated. Now for our closing reading, A Blessing of Darkness and Light by Amy Zucker Morgenstern. Blessed is the dark in which our dreams stir and are revealed. Blessed is the blessed is the dark of earth where seeds come to life. Blessed are the depths of the ocean where no light shimmers, the womb of all earthly life. Blessed is the light in which we awake, the light that sparkles on the waters, that calls the tree forth from the seed, that calls the shadow forth from the tree. Blessed are we as we move through darkness and through light. Please rise in body and spirit, and let's sing together our musical benediction. Please join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice.
Extinguish this chalice, that it might glow gently in our hearts. May it light our paths as we leave this place. May it guide our way until we are together again.
Beloveds, there's just no need to be afraid of the dark. May we relax into it. May we welcome it into our hearts and minds. May we release our fear and trust in the strength and power of love. May we know ourselves to be held and capable of transforming the world individually and together. I love you all. Have a good week. Go in peace. Stay for the annual meeting. Come back next Sunday.